Oh, wait, but
It's just, yeah.
All right, I call this meeting to order. Welcome everybody to the Human Relations Committee. For folks that are not here, I advise that there are agenda copies available in the front of the room. I will now ask the principal management analyst to take attendance by roll call.
Thank you, Chair. Committee Member Lester.
Here.
Committee Member McDonald is absent. Committee Member Smith is absent. Committee Member Sylvester.
here,
Committee Member Webb.
Here,
Vice Chair Chadwell is absent and Chair Poicone.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to item 3, minutes approval. The minutes for April 3rd, 2025 regular meeting have been delivered to committee members and posted on the City Hall bulletin board. If there are no corrections or additions, a motion is in order to approve these minutes. I hear a motion.
so moved.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Sylvester. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No opposed. Perfect. Item number 4, oral communications from the public. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the committee on any matter not on the agenda. Each speaker has up to 3 minutes to make their comments. State law prohibits the committee from acting on non-agenda items. For those attending the meeting via Zoom, please use the raise hand function or press *9 on your phone to make a comment on any item not on the agenda. The committee will receive in-person comments first. Seeing none, do we have any on Zoom? Perfect. Moving on to item 5, unfinished business. Civic Participation Ad Hoc Subcommittee. The Civic Participation Ad Hoc Subcommittee will present an oral update. No action will be taken on this time. Ad hoc. Ad hoc Subcommittee.
Got it, okay.
Okay.
So the Civic Participation Ad Hoc Subcommittee has been working over the past few months, I think, on getting grounded, making sure we're clear on what our goals are. And I think that's really helped us build a strong foundation for what's next. So during this month of June, we're gonna be moving into the action phase of our plan. Chair Poicone will be joining us as we each individually attend 3 meetings of different community organizations in Mountain View. So at those meetings, we'll be introducing ourselves, explaining or talking a little bit about what the Human Relations Committee does. And then from there, we'll shift into listening mode, asking folks and hearing about their experiences, times they've felt a part of the Mountain View community, or whether they've thought of getting more involved with the city directly and how they usually find out about what's happening in the city. So our hope is that we'll hear honest feedback so we can understand what's working, what's missing, and how the city of Mountain View can do better at meeting people where they are. So I think, you know, the goals and the foundation that we built is that this is all about relationship building, empowerment, and making space for voices that we don't always hear in City Hall. So I'm really excited about what the next month is going to bring.
Thank you, Commissioner Lester. Do we have any questions from the committee? Seeing none, I open the floor to public comment. There's no attendees, so, and none on Zoom. Yes, commissioners.
I'm sorry, I forgot I did have a question on behalf of the ad hoc committee. If anyone has ideas of organizations we can talk to, let us know.
Yes, please do.
Thank you, Commissioner Sylvester. All right.
Which I guess would be Javier, because he's the only one not on the committee, but.
I'm writing a note.
Thank you.
All right, seeing that there's no public members both in present and on Zoom, do you have a
Real
question?
quick. So
Yeah.
when you talk about organizations, are they just within the city limits? Or like if it's a county organization?
I think we're focused on people with a strong presence in the city.
Okay,
If they had, like if it's Mountain View Los Altos or something like
Right.
that, that might be okay, but definitely focused on the MV. Good question.
Thank you for the question. All right, moving on to item 5.2, check out a human ad hoc subcommittee. The check out a human ad hoc subcommittee will present an oral update. No action will be taken on this item. Do we have someone from the check out a human ad hoc committee?
We have me, but we haven't met in the last month awaiting, because we were waiting for the contract to be signed with the Check Out a Human organization. So
That's correct.
I don't know if there is an update on that.
That's correct. Thank you. Committee member Sylvester, the Check Out a Human Ad Hoc Committee is awaiting updates on the contract, which is under review for approval.
Okay, so it's,
Thank you for the reminder.
yeah, so I'd say once that was done, we're well on the way to getting an event going. So stay tuned. It's exciting.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none and seeing that there's no public here in person or online, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Item 6, new business, multicultural engagement program information update. The committee will receive an information update from the multicultural engagement program. No action will be taken on this item. Community Outreach Coordinator Nancy Ducos will provide the presentation.
Okay. Thank you. I'm getting really nervous now. Okay, so good evening, commissioners. Tonight, as you mentioned, I will provide updates on the multicultural engagement program from July 1st, 2024 up to date. So I think I have been before, and you know more or less what we do. So some of you are new and haven't heard about us. So the goals of our program is our primary role is to fulfill translations and interpretation requests from city staff. We aim to increase access to information. We strive to make a reasonable effort to provide meaningful access to essential information. We offer translation and interpretation services as needed. We are also assisting in implementing the language access and multicultural engagement policy, which was approved in October 24, and now we are in the process of implementing. We, as a result of this, this language access program, MEP coordinates and maintains citywide telephone interpretation and written translation contract, and that is where on-demand interpretation services come. We, in order for us to support access and increasing access, we have a contract with, we have on-demand interpretation services, which is somebody come to the office and they speak, let's say, Turkish or Portuguese. We have a system and where we can call these on-demand services and we can provide services in that language. And of course, there is a process to do that, but the idea is that language is not an obstacle to offer services. So this year have been very busy, as always, but now that we are implementing this policy, I think we see an increase on demand. So right now we have, so far we have 146 requests for interpretation. We have 423 requests for translation, and we have so far 24 community outreach in person. Wow. We do that, like for instance, we send an email to all the neighborhood associations, and they are inviting us to come to their ice cream socials. So we're pretty busy. I think every weekend we have a place where we go and we table and we provide information about what the city does, which is very fun because it allows us to really get to know the different neighborhood and the culture of the neighborhood, which is amazing, you know? So one thing that is important to know is that one request might come in, but 3 inputs might come out, which means that maybe one document is requested to be translated, but they need it in three languages. So it multiplies the amount of work that we are doing. So, so I'm going to move to the next one. So, this is what we are doing with the language access policy, community engagement policy. We basically define processes and responsibilities. It's a document that we created that she is led, and it allows us to have a common direction of what we do. It helps us to create a common language. And it's a very strong guidance, no? It's like it helps us to see the light. Where are we going? So it defines citywide standards and processes, enhance community member access to city program and services, recognize the importance of multilingual and multicultural engagement for achieving city goals. Talk about if we want people to be part of what we do, if we want to engage with people, it's important that language access is present. And also comply with some state and federal requirements, you know? So this is the basic of the language access and multicultural community engagement policy. So what else we do? Well, we connect with we connect with multicultural and multilingual communities. We are developing best practices for communication through a multicultural lens. For example, as I mentioned before, city events, neighborhood associations, summer activity, and cultural celebration are helping us connect with the community and enhance our understanding of its diversity. It's coming to this community with a humility approach where you don't know everything, you're learning, and it's a good place to be, where you don't necessarily have to be the expert on everything. Because every time we go to the community, they tell us so many stories and so many things that it really change how are we communicating and what we are communicating. So, so other thing that we are doing is, in a way to connect, is the celebration of Dia de Muertos. It was a great celebration. We had like maybe 2,000 people. We had a group of volunteers from different places helping. This is not only a city initiative, but it's supported by so many members of the community. And the beginning of this is very interesting because 3 years ago, I think it was 3 years ago, we started along with Monster Bash. No, it was like a little room in the back where, you know, it was a great idea back then. And we just, little by little, every year we are taking a little bit more. And then until the community says, you know what, we want to have our own space to celebrate Dia de Muertos because it's not necessarily the same thing as Halloween. And then magic happened because we presented the idea and here we got what we wanted, that was to celebrate City Hall and City Center Plaza. So last year, for the first time ever, the city of Mountain View, the local government celebrate Dia de Muertos and the City Hall become this huge amazing place. Like was like, wow, what is this? You know? So I think it says a lot about our community and our connection with the community, like you say about this project that you have to connect with the community. So this year we will do it again because we know that we can do it, and it will be Saturday, November 1st. We already have a date and we're working on it to prepare for that. So. And also, another thing, hold a second, let me go back here. Another thing that we have been doing and we are going to do is the celebration of the Lunar New Year that also started with us and now is part of the Park and Rec. So here is the celebration of Dia de Muertos with all. That's how it looks, this is how the City Hall became a fantastic place. So the Lunar New Year is going to be celebrated in 2025. And then also one thing that we are working with is with the Mountain View ambassadors. The ambassadors are the people that graduate from the academies. We have 2 academies, Chinese and Spanish. And when they graduate, so they are part of this huge group that help the city communicate and share information. These are the great source, and they have several platform like WeChat, that is for the Chinese community. And then we use ambassadors, our own ambassador platform, WhatsApp, for them to communicate. And it's just, you know, every time we have, for instance, a news release that we wanted to share, we just post it there, and the ambassador share it with their own network. We have people that belongs to churches and Atanasio. We have people that belongs to CAT, Cafecito, the Fondo de Solidaridad. So it's a very diverse group. Schools, you know, each school has their own groups, so they are members of those groups, so they spread all the news everywhere. So, so far we have 8 groups that have participated in the Spanish Language Academy or Chinese Language Academy. We have 177 people that are active participants, no? And this was our first meeting that we had this past, I think was March, because people wanted to get together. And it was a little bit challenging because how can I translate from Spanish to English, English to Chinese? So we have all kind of equipment back and forth. We have people speaking Chinese in the back, then Spanish here, but they wanted to be together and they wanted to get to know each other. So here we are, we did it, and it was a great success. Right now, we just finished the Spanish Language Academy that started in March. We had 11-week program. Last night was the last night with the fire department. We have 27 people that are graduating, and our graduation is next Wednesday, June 11. So as we speak, I'm finishing with this. I'm preparing for the graduation, but also I'm ready to start recruiting for the Chinese Language Academy starting in March of next year. You think, well, this is next year. Well, recruitment is very important, and we do that one at a time. It's not like I want to have 20 people or no. It's something. It's like falling in love, that I always say. Yeah, because I said this is the program, and if I see that somebody's hesitating, I don't know. Well, maybe that's not. But when I see somebody that says, "I am ready," I want to be there. So I think that's the people, because then it's part of our retention program. Because remember,
Yeah.
the academy is just a moment, but it's just, we want to have these ambassadors that are the fruit of the community. So this is what we do, what I do, and we have right now 3 people that speak Mandarin that are very good reaching out to their community. And then we have around 7 people that speak Spanish. I have a full-time person that's really skillful in all the things that I'm not. Like, she has a very good hands with art and doing things that enhance what we do and allows me, like I told her yesterday, that I realized that love is a fundamental principle, and that because I have a person like her helping me, I have the possibility and the time to speak to people, to look at people in their eyes, and not going from one place to another, but just there and listening, which, is another principle. If you want to build community, listening. So this is what we do. And thank you for your time. And if you have any questions,
Thank you so much, Nancy, for your lovely presentation. So I will open it up for the committee, in case they have any questions. I can start. So, thank you again for you presented. I have a question about the leadership groups. Are there any future plans to expand that to other languages other than English and Mandarin Chinese, like Russian or Vietnamese, depending on our population?
well, we have a threshold about the program that we offer in what languages. In Chinese and Spanish right now is the population that they have that meet that threshold. I think it's a 5%. And that's why we decided to do it in Chinese and Spanish. Yes.
Okay. And then, kind of to your point earlier about translation services, are there any plans in the future to kind of incorporate AI into translation services so that they could be simultaneous, especially as we're thinking about staff capacity and how many events you're all able to attend?
I think the city is exploring different opportunities and see what other cities are doing, like Sunnyvale, Gilroy, Morgan Hill, to see how this is doable for us. We actually have been talking to the city clerk in Sunnyvale and other places to see how much it costs, how they're doing it, how culturally relevant it is, but also understanding that, yes, when you have this type of services, maybe it work, but we are still exploring that possibility.
If I may add to that, the one other piece of this exploration is that we have a specific setup for council meetings on the council chambers. That includes the telecast, that includes Zoom, and whatever technologies the city might use need to be compatible with that. Other cities have different setups, and so one of the pieces of exploration is how do we integrate this into the technology that already exists.
Thank you for that. And Committee Member Sylvester. Committee Member Sylvester.
You talked a bit about your on-demand services. I'm curious how often they get used and what languages get requested.
It gets requested in Russian.
Oh, okay.
And sometime the library uses it, and Chinese.
Oh,
I
okay.
think all the languages, but we have had a lot of need for Russian sporadically, not because we always need it. For instance, with the rent stabilization, they have a person that walk in on Thursdays when they have their night. When they offer information, like the person speaks Chinese, but we don't have anybody right there. So it's easy to just call the number that we have, and we can have a person on the other line speaking Russian in less than 3 minutes.
A little bit of a follow-up to that question. You mentioned like that language is mostly Russian, but you also mentioned there are other languages it can do. Have we seen any other languages just starting to like show up in Mountain View? You mentioned maybe Turkish or
Portuguese.
Portuguese,
We have a
really?
few people that spoke Portuguese that needed on-demand services. Yes, but it just one. or
Yeah,
two
like onesie
people,
twosie.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Committee Member Lester.
Yeah, this may also kind of be a question for Laurel as well, but I was wondering what, if the city has a plan to kind of expand its language access in how it notifies citizens of things that are happening. So I get notices in my mailbox of things that the city is doing, and I notice that it's only available in English. And I'm sure if I went online to try to find it, I would find it in another language, but I was just wondering, and maybe those two languages, Spanish and Chinese, if the city has plans to make that so that it's available in everything the city puts out, essentially.
So you're asking that if the program are available in other languages, information about those programs are available in other languages. Well, one thing is that when you go to when you are on the webpage and you click languages on the top, you can transfer that to that language that you
Okay.
need. And actually, it's interesting talking to the community members. They are so good at having that in their phone because their phone is directly already in the language. And I was trying to figure out, all the things that we're doing, and they already have their phone automatically in Spanish, for instance, no? So that's an instance. However, we have a system called Babblik, where we translate many things, and it's a matter of just clicking clicking and changing and selecting the language. Anything else?
Yeah, thanks, Nancy, for going over the internet options. We also, part of the language access policy is really about a cultural change in the city to take what some work groups are doing as part of the regular course of business and implement it as the standard throughout the city. So in some instances where we send out postcards or information that's written that is only in English, the goal is to transition to having that available in all languages. And to get there, we'll be rolling out citywide training just to make sure that everybody's aware of this standard. And then to start to support that through some of these expanded on-call translation services, because MEP already does a lot, and we want to make sure that they're focusing on community outreach, which is something that only they can do. And we want to support them by having another party available for some of these larger requests. So yes, we're working on transitioning more of our communications to be multilingual. And then in addition to that, there's a recent state law that requires emergency communications to be multilingual. So that's something that we're gearing up to be prepared to implement.
Many initiatives that we have, like the zero fatality or transportation, they are translated in 3 languages. And many initiatives that we do also are intentionally translated. And the staff is very good at understanding what need to be when and what need to be translated. And so, like for instance, any legal documents like we just translated It's called legal because people have to sign.
Oh.
Is the application for business. We just translated it in Spanish and Chinese because we see many people that are applying for their business license, need to understand that. So things like that. And it's coming in many cases from the staff, which is fantastic because they are the first one that in face to face with communities.
Do you have a question? Committee member, Webb? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was random.
I spelled the question.
So, no, I love the Leadership Academy. And I know that you're trying to reach out more for the Mandarin?
Mandarin community, yes.
How are you advertising and how can we assist with that?
Okay, so the first thing is that I have very strong community outreach workers, specialists. And
Dawn, sorry, I had trouble finding transportation back.
Okay, it's okay.
Lyft wouldn't.
Come on in, John, the water's going.
so the main vehicle that we have is our three Chinese Mandarin speakers. They belong to they're part of the WeChat group is one. They already know the community. We also have two already graduated groups and they're really strong in helping us to do outreach, you know? And it takes just one group to create one group and then they start reaching out and many of the members I get it through referrals. Like, okay, I went into this program and there is a big, I would say there is a big interest of the Mandarin community to learn more about the local governments. And they're really, really interested. Like I have this group of women I say, well, my children are already in college and I need to do something for me. I want to give back to my community and I want to know how can I do that. So, and the academy is good. We go to do a lot of outreach in person. We post it. We go to places, churches, a lot of in-person outreach when we go to all the CNC and neighborhood associations. And the way that you can help us with that, promote it, is when you are going out and you see and you talk to communities, talk about it. And schools is a good place. Right, in your own neighborhood, you have people that are part of your neighborhood that speak Mandarin. And this is good because it's in Mandarin. So like last year, we have at least 4 individuals that were learning in English as a second language. So for them to be able to learn in Mandarin and speak Mandarin was really an asset.
So the follow-up with that, you were mentioning going to schools and things of that nature. What's the normal age range that are participating in your program?
Oh, wow. It all depends. Like for instance, for the Spanish Language Academy now, we have the children of the leaders that participated before. So this year we have at least, I would say, at least 7 young adults that are in college. And the rest are parents. And so I would say maybe, I don't know, I would say maybe 35 is the average age. However, we have a lot of young people. For the Chinese community, I think is an older group.
Thank you, Committee Member Webb. I do have one more question, then we can move on. You had mentioned, Sunnyvale, earlier that you are in conversations. One of the things that they've incorporated is having monolingual speakers serve in their commission. Are there any future plans to integrate that within the city of Mountain View to be able to have monolingual speakers serve as commissioners or committee members?
That's for you. However, we are looking at that. We're exploring possibilities and we are learning, but you have more
Thank you
direction.
for the question and for the referral. So as it stands, we are working on expanding our capacity for language access generally. there's no prohibition on a monolingual speaker serving on any council advisory body. Accommodating or ensuring language access, I should say, for that participant would require us to think outside the box and handle some challenges. But if the council were to appoint a monolingual speaker to an advisory body, staff would take that as direction to figure it out.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Nancy, again for coming. Thank you. Oh. two more
One quick
questions.
question.
There you go.
Is the graduation next week open to the public and what are the details if it is?
Okay, well, yes, the graduation is starts at 6 o'clock is the gathering, at 6:15 is the ceremony.
Oh, cool.
And then the ceremony, and then after the ceremony, we have a little celebration, refreshments and cake. You're invited if you want to join us. The idea is to get people talk and celebrate that they have been with us 11 weeks. That's a long time. Huh?
Extremely intense.
Yeah, it's extremely intense. And
And
it's
it's
gonna
here?
be right here at City Council.
Awesome. Thank
City
you.
Council chambers.
Thank you for the question.
Okay,
committee member.
6 o'clock?
6 o'clock, yes. Is the gathering, and then 6:15, the ceremony start.
Awesome.
And I believe I saw your hand raised, committee
Are
member.
you
Webb.
available to go?
I might.
If you are, could you pick me up?
I'm coming from somewhere else, so I don't think so.
okay.
We can talk, Joe.
We'll figure it out.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
So I keep hearing you mention Mandarin.
Uh-huh.
And I'm wondering, because I know some people in our community don't speak Mandarin, they speak either Cantonese or Cantonese or any of those languages. Is there any plans to either work with your ambassador program? Because I know that, like, I have some neighbors that they speak.
Mhm.
And so this doesn't apply to, they can't engage with the community in the same sense because they don't speak that. Is there anything, because I know we have the 5% threshold, does that include just, so and I know a lot of people throw like, oh, Chinese is a generic term.
Mhm.
And it shouldn't be a generic term. It should be clearly stated, this is a Mandarin or
It's
this
Chinese Mandarin.
is,
Mhm. Yeah.
right, speaking.
Hey,
Organization.
guys.
If I may jump in, committee member Webb, the thresholds are based on census data. And so when we use that data, we use the broken down language by language, not just regional, but specific. And so when it comes to Chinese, Mandarin does meet the threshold, but these minority languages do not. And so in that case, we don't have support through the MEP for those languages. However, we do still have on-call
Call. Yeah,
translation services. So it does unfortunately mean that the academy is not set up to accommodate other languages.
And also, it's good that you mentioned that it's Chinese Mandarin. We have different places in China that speak different Taiwanese, Cantonese, and it's extremely important to make a difference to honor where people are. Yes.
Thank you, committee members, for your thoughtful questions. Thank you, Nancy, for attending our meeting. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and I will see you next year.
All right.
Yes,
Hopefully before.
yeah,
See
yeah.
you next week, girl.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you very much.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 6.2, fiscal year 2025-26 work plan development discussion. The committee will now receive a presentation on this item from Principal Management Analyst James. No action will be taken on this item.
Thank you, Chair. We will begin at this meeting, the discussion of the committee's fiscal year 25-26 work plan. And so we're going to take a minute to review some of the reasons that we create a work plan, to talk a little bit about last year's work plan, and then talk a little bit about next year's work. So to get started, I'm going to ask my fellow staff member if PowerPoint is working. Because you were making a face like it might not be. Try it. Okay, thank you. And so as a reminder, the work plan development process typically works like this. which I did not update from last time, so I apologize for the slightly off dates. Usually we're gonna spend this meeting instead of the May 1st one, June 5th, on coming up with ideas for the work plan. And then following this meeting, staff will complete an analysis of the potential ideas, and we'll talk a little bit how that's going to go in a moment. And then at the next meeting, which will be a special meeting of the committee on July 17th, we'll do a final selection and recommendation of the work plan to council, which will go to council for adoption and approval in September typically at their first meeting, although not always. And then we'll work on executing that work plan through June 30th, 2026. So that's the general timeline of how the development and implementation process runs. So the committee develops work plan because under council policy A23, which is about work planning and the referral process for council advisory bodies and council member committees. All council advisory bodies are required to prepare and submit work plans to council for review and approval annually. And this occurs in late spring and early summer to align with the council goal setting and work planning, which is coming to a conclusion. All advisory body work is to be authorized by the city council. The advisory bodies can work on what is on the work plan and not what is off the work plan unless they receive a direct referral from city council. And again, that's per that council policy. So as a reminder, as we're thinking about projects for the work plan in the HRC's establishing resolution, which was just renewed by the council at the May 27th meeting, the HRC was established to act as an advisory body to the city council, serve as a liaison or facilitator between city government and the public, and serve as a forum for public discussion on issues related to tolerance, which includes non-discrimination, diversity, and cultural awareness, involvement, which means barriers to participation and program relevance to community needs with regards to the city's programs. And then inclusivity, which is outreach to diverse populations and soliciting community input. So all of the projects that we recommend should be aligned with this purpose. So one of the pieces of this discussion, as we know, is about capacity and time required for projects. So as a reminder, some of the less intensive rather, I should say, projects include participating in or supporting relevant city events or projects, informational updates on existing initiatives, events involving a single professional speaker or facilitator, or an organization, for example, like the Human Library that does regular events that we can host alongside them. Pardon me. The medium intensive events include events with multiple speakers, components, or partners. Some of those can be highly intensive as well. It just really depends on how the event is structured and who those speakers are and what those components are. And then storytelling projects can also be in that medium intensive category. And then highly intensive projects include major or multifaceted research projects, studies, or large scale or multi-day events or series of events. That said, these categories aren't hard and fast. I know that some of those things on that medium list could be high intensity. They could be low intensity. There are a lot of variables, but it's something to keep in mind as we're committing as you're committing as a committee to what to do, and as we're analyzing what staff resources are necessary to support that work. So to review the current work plan status, and this is for not ongoing projects necessarily, but specific discrete projects. The Multicultural Festival is beautifully complete. The CDBG home funding recommendations have been made. We received the MEP informational update today on June 5th, 2025. And then the council neighborhood committee meetings I apologize, there's something wrong with this presentation. But the past meetings were on May 29th. And then, I'm sorry, this was for the previous dates, I apologize. So the past meeting was on May 29th, it's in the upcoming category there. Upcoming is June 12th in the central area next week, I think, unfortunately, the same time as MEP graduation. And then.
That's Wednesday.
No,
That's on
it's the
Thursday.
day before, right?
Oh, yes, thank you. It's Wednesday, not Thursday. My apologies. I'm all twisted around. Okay. And then another upcoming meeting on September 11th, which we can review for the next fiscal year, essentially. And And then for those one-time projects, the storytelling project was launched in August 2024, and it's, I think for all intents and purposes, substantively complete. The climate change outreach project is ongoing but paused as we await the next phase of the project for staff. The LGBTQA plus forum was held on November 2024. The Check Out a Human event is tentatively scheduled for fall 2025. And the civic participation outreach project is ongoing with a target completion date of December 2025. And the reason we're discussing this is so we can kind of see what the status of those projects is and think about that as we're selecting projects for the next work plan so that we're not overwhelmed by the number of projects at any given time. There are also ongoing work items on the HRC's work plan. These have been on the work plan for as long as I've supported the HRC. They may have been on the work plan for as long as some of you have been on the HRC. And one of the recommendations for the discussion today is to revisit these and see if there are any that we'd like to remove just to clean up the work plan. So they include council neighborhoods committee meeting attendance, which does need to stay on the work plan. That's a council referral. An informational update on the MEP. The Mountain View Police Department annual update, which will be added for 2025-26, and also will be one of the agenda items at the July 17th special meeting. CDBG and home funding recommendations will stay on the plan. The Multicultural Festival will also stay on the plan, or on the recommended plan, I suppose. Attending Santa Clara County HRC, CARO, and other jurisdictions HRC events is on that ongoing work items list. Joining the Neighborhood Association contact list to receive updates is also on the work plan. Committing to doing personal community outreach is on the work plan. And acting as a resource for humans, relations, related needs for the city is also on the work plan. Although I will also add that's related to the establishing resolution of the HRC and may or may not need to be called out separately. Okay. So for short-term work items, the carry forward projects we can are the storytelling project. Potentially, I think we can also decide not to put that as a carry forward item. That's an option for the committee. Climate change outreach. Civic participation, which again has a target completion date of December 2025, and the Check Out a Human Library project is expected to be complete in September 2025. For new fiscal year 2025-26 projects and the discussion we'll be having tonight, staff recommends no more than 2 new projects and consider balancing a mix of project types or intensity. So, again, we probably don't want to do 2 highly intensive projects, but there may be some room for mixing the types to find something that is achievable in the next fiscal year. So when I'm talking about staff going and doing analysis after this meeting, what I'll be looking at is staff and HRC capacity and using my best judgment to see what may be feasible in the work plan for the coming year. We alignment with HRC, as I said in the resolution, which we just reviewed. So do the projects fit into these buckets that council has created? And then alignment with the council's strategic priorities as a bonus. And if there are additional components that we want to include in this analysis, we can have a discussion tonight about what those may be. So the questions before the committee tonight are: first, are there any changes the committee would like to make to the existing, ongoing, and carry forward work projects, which we just reviewed? Then a discussion of what are the committee's ideas for potential new work plan projects, which will allow each commissioner to share up to 2 projects. Staff will record the ideas on a document, and the committee will discuss the potential projects, asking questions to clarify the ideas put forth, identify commonalities or buckets of projects that can be combined or point to a specific direction of common interest, and then scope generalized ideas into defined projects. We found that more defined projects are more likely to get completed than general ideas, which take a lot of time to scope in committee. And then finally, does the committee have feedback on staff's analytical approach that was just presented? Is there anything we need to tweak or anything we should add? So with that, thank you for your time, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Principal Analyst James. Does the committee have any questions? I do have a quick question. Thank you again for the presentation. Oh, go ahead.
I
Committee member.
wondered what kind of feedback we've gotten from asking people to answer questions, or we had a series of asking for feedback, and I wondered whether we got much from the general public.
Did we? Are you asking if we conducted surveys in response to
Yeah,
previous activities? Okay. And do we have?
Yes, so typically at the end of HRC events, we have a post-event survey that asks questions tailored to the event, but in general, did you like this? What did you like? Would you recommend this? Do you have general feedback? And as a rule, the feedback has been positive.
Yeah.
Sometimes people say we should do this again, and sometimes the committee member responses, we should not do that again because it was a lot of work or really difficult, or it was great and that was a one-time thing. But I would not say there's a lot of like substantive shaping of feedback to inform this process. In general, it's thank you for doing this. It was really lovely.
Thank you for the question, committee member. My question is on the ongoing work items. Is there a recommendation? So each of one of these items looks like they're pretty much pertinent to the role of the HRC. Is there a recommendation from staff on ones to let go of?
Staff has some suggestions on ones to let go of that could be incorporated to the recommended work plan to be brought to the HRC at the next meeting if the HRC is open to it. Staff was also thinking to incorporate any particular direction that the HRC had into that, but if the committee is open to directing staff to make a strong recommendation, that could happen.
Committee
I
member?
wondered if in the ongoing work items, attending council neighborhood committee meetings and also the neighborhood meetings, is there a website, a city website that gives the date, time, and place of all of those?
Thank you for the question. Yes, there is, I'm sorry, I should say, there is a website that gives all of the council neighborhoods committee meeting date, time, and locations. For individual neighborhood associations, the city doesn't maintain or manage those calendars. And for the neighborhoods committee, the CNC meetings, we do discuss them in the HRC meeting at the beginning of the year too, and as they become available, because there will be an adoption of the new schedule in January or February. So once that's available, we have a discussion here and informally make sure that at least one committee member is attending.
So the website does list the neighborhoods and the contact information, or we have to do that individually?
That would be individually, yes. The city doesn't maintain that information.
Thank you for the question. Okay. If seeing no more questions for committee, public comment, there are no members in the public here present and no members online. So I move it to committee discussion. So we did hear from our analyst that we can make a recommendation, but also before that, we as a committee can ask staff to review our ongoing projects and make a recommendation to us of which ones we could potentially drop at our July 17th meeting.
Right.
Would this committee be interested in seeing what staff advises?
Yeah,
I'm also happy to share feedback, of what I think should be dropped.
sure.
I don't know when the time is right for that. Basically the last four. Again, some of these have predated even me on the HRC. We've tried to be involved with like the Santa Clara County HRC in Caro in the past. It's never really worked out. It seems like it could be something people do occasionally, but it doesn't seem like a work plan level item, given how infrequently it happens. And then the rest, it seemed very similar to what Analyst James was saying, that may already be baked into the mission of the HRC or redundant. But like the last two bullet points feel like it's part of the HRC mandate.
Yeah,
I agree with you, committee member with attend the Human Rights Commission, CARO. The meetings are irregular and sometimes they don't happen.
Yeah,
If there was anyone, I think I was more leaning on dropping would probably be that one.
which one? I'm sorry.
The
Oh, the
10.
whole bullet, okay.
Yeah, the whole bullet. And yeah, the other bullet points below that seemed like they were already incorporated
Yeah.
into our. But yeah. I will entertain a motion to make a staff, to have staff make a recommendation for us for what ongoing projects,
Sure.
yeah.
I motion that staff consider our recommendation to remove the 4 bullet points on the bottom. Do I have to speak them all out?
You do not also, I will just make a point of
Or-
order. This is just a general direction
Okay.
discussion, so you don't
Cool.
have to vote on
So-
anything.
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
Make everyone's lives a little bit.
That makes it way easier. Thank you, committee member.
Is it also time to talk about carry forward projects as part of ongoing projects, as part of the bullet point 1,
Yes.
if I may?
Yes.
Analyst James has already suggested that the storytelling project for all intents and purposes might be over. I'm the only one here on that group that, so I don't know how my colleagues feel, but I would recommend sunsetting it. It, for no lack of love or effort, could not seemingly get off the ground. We could not find the best way to reach the public to give input. So it probably needed redesign entirely, and I don't think anyone has the desire to do that right now.
Thank you, committee member. Any other asks from the committee?
can you go, the climate change outreach, can you explain that one and see how it's different from like the sustainability committee?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. So the sustainability team, pardon me, is working on a decarbonization plan for the city that will guide the activities, sustainability activities in the city for the next several decades. One component of that was initially part of the scope of work was a resiliency analysis that would entail working with the community to understand what human level projects, resources, support would be needed to support resiliency in the face of climate change related hazards and disasters. That resiliency strategy was at one point dropped from the scope of work, but has been re-added to the scope of work for the decarbonization plan as part of the council work plan project to end the flow of natural gas by 2045. Because community electrification and resiliency is a huge part of that conversation. That project would entail a lot of work with at-risk or vulnerable communities in Mountain View that would be particularly hard hit by the effects of climate change and need more resources and assistance to electrify. The HRC is intended to be involved in those outreach efforts to the community as part of this plan and to be ambassadors to assist with events or holding an event. That particular scope of work remains to be completely determined. But that the project basically entails assisting with the outreach related to that resiliency study. And the delay is due to both changes in the scope of the project back and forth, and then also to temporary, now resolved issues with staffing in the sustainability team.
So it's on hold for us because we have no direction.
Right.
or guidance?
It's on hold because the resiliency study isn't yet underway.
So having it on here as a carry forward? Or is it a mandate from the city council?
It's not. It could be removed. The HRC had opted to participate and requested to participate in the outreach as part of a work plan project. It's a carry forward because it's been on hold. We expect the project to get underway in the fall.
Okay,
Um,
okay,
that said, if the committee rather no longer desires to participate in that particular project, it could be removed from the work plan if the majority agreed.
thank you.
Of course.
Thank you for your question, Committee Member Webb. Are we able to make recommendations now too for plausible projects we consider?
Absolutely. So I want to go back to these questions and recommended process, which was just the first question was about the ongoing and carry forward work plan projects. Staff wanted to focus on that for a minute just because we haven't discussed the ongoing projects in the past. I wanted to make sure that that was highlighted specifically. And then if we'd like to move on to discuss ideas for new work plan projects, that would be perfectly appropriate.
Yeah, do we just want to go around really quickly on question one and we'll just go down line? On if any committee member,
Yeah, I think.
are we on number two now?
I'll note, I heard from Committee Member Sylvester and Chair Poycon about number one. If there are any other comments from community members, we could discuss that now. I heard some strong direction. If there aren't other comments from committee members, then I think we could consider it closed.
All right, we'll move on to number two.
Oh, wait.
Or do you?
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay. What are the committee's ideas for potential new work plan projects? Each commissioner shares up to 2 projects. Yeah, so does anyone want to start? I'll start. Based off the current political climate that's going on and kind of the fear that's been growing, one of the suggestions I had for this committee is having a Know Your Rights educational workshops. I think this is possibly low to moderate commitment from staff, but essentially this can range. This would be addressing many of the civil rights topics, which can include tenant protections, worker rights, senior rights, and immigration rights as well. So yeah, that's my recommendation. Yep. Does anybody have any questions or things I can clarify? Yes.
I just want to make sure I captured tenants, seniors, workers, and immigrants. Was there?
Yeah, it's not limiting that scope, but I guess
Oh.
including that, and I'm sure as a committee, we can announce or name other topics that we would want to be addressed in this Know Your Right workshop. Or, yeah, educational workshop, what have you. Any other questions? All right, perfect. Any other committee member have a idea for a potential new work plan project? Committee Member Webb?
A listening forum, listening forums have been pretty good for us in the past. I got some feedback from some people from the LGBTQ community that attended our sessions. And I think that having that type of event was really successful. It highlighted members of the community that felt marginalized. We learned a lot more from that. And I think even a deeper dive into it, and another round of it would be something that would be very beneficial for the community. And if we could figure out some other ways to enhance it as a subcommittee, I think it'd be something worthwhile for the upcoming year.
Does any committee member have any questions for committee member Webb?
I
Member- no.
wondered, I wondered what, um, we're doing about checking out a human ad hoc committee. How are we doing this?
So we did, for the Checkout a Human,
Mhm.
project, I believe we discussed that.
Yeah, the ad hoc committee gave an update.
Yeah, so
Um,
we can check in with you,
Oh,
Joan,
I'm
afterwards.
sorry, it was
No,
late.
no worries,
Okay.
no worries on
We'll tell you
that.
afterwards.
I think there was intent to hope that it continues on the work plan for the coming year.
Right,
Yeah,
Project's underway and expected
Yeah.
to be complete in the fall, so.
yeah.
If I may, committee member Webb, was it specifically an LGBTQ listening forum?
definitely.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to make sure I captured it correctly.
Thank you, committee member Webb. Any other proposals from this committee? Committee member Lester?
I have a couple.
Okay.
I feel like we're on a roll in terms of talking about events here. I guess we missed them. My first one, is looking at maybe like a CRT, looking at the immigrant experience in Mountain View, not political, not specific to the current time, but looking at various cultures and countries and stages of immigrants, in Mountain View, have people who are newer to the US, more recently naturalized, kind of a variety of different people, perhaps in a panel. So have a variety of like very rich, it's safe environment for people to tell their stories, like what was it like to come here? What challenges did you face? How has Mountain View supported you and provided you opportunity? Just sharing their stories. Alternatively, this could be a podcast or a written blog, something like when we did the stories of vehicle residents, when we did a little blog post.
Can I piggyback on that?
Of course.
So I was actually gonna have something similar, but I want to tie it around Human Rights Day. So that
Sure.
Human Relations Commission is doing something for human rights. Day. Whatever the activity would be flushed out, panels,
Sure.
some storytelling, exactly what she was saying, just around this specific date, I think would be something that would draw, and we could probably build upon it as something.
Right, leverage
potentially annual.
partnerships.
Yeah, and we could even bring in other organizations that are,
Yeah.
but that would be something we discuss maybe in the committees.
Yeah.
subcommittee.
And I'd like to piggyback on that too. I think that getting people to recognize how others have experienced Mountain View over time would reveal some interesting things that we need to know. So if we could gather data relative to how much participation people had in city events and so on, relative to how long they've been here. And what other kinds of activities they've been involved in. I think that would inform us to reach out where we see gaps. And perhaps find a way to have people feel more welcomed earlier on. For some people, as a matter of fact, I've met a couple with kids who were delighted with their neighborhood welcoming them when they came, and really lavishing events, interaction and so on early on, and then nothing. There wasn't any follow-up, any continual kind of thing, and so they felt that they really weren't as welcomed as they thought they were.
If I may, maybe that question could be baked into the community outreach. You know, sort of to the part about how do you feel about the city and how it responds to you based on how long you've been there? I don't know if that could be baked into that or not.
Yeah,
Or are
That's
you
one of our
thinking,
sentiments.
is it more like a survey that you are trying to get this
well,
information and do
it's
some
part
analysis on
survey,
that?
yeah. It's part survey. Maybe it's all survey, but it's for a variety of information that we can glean from that.
So what would the, I'm sorry, can we ask questions on this?
Yeah, of
It's
course.
for discussion, yeah.
Okay. What would be the ultimate, we'll say ultimate goal of this? If you're doing a survey to find out some information, are we gonna take it back to the city and say, these are some action items based on this? Or is the city gonna have some have their staff do the analysis on it and get the feedback and maybe give this information to different departments? I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out
Yeah.
what you would,
Well,
how are you envisioning
all of that
and
and
our
more.
purpose of, and our
Yeah.
purpose as well.
This could be information shared with neighborhoods.
Okay.
And matter of fact, the neighborhood leaders could probably help draw people out to fill out the surveys and so on. So we have a positive outreach to people who are new to our communities and our neighborhoods.
Okay. So you're thinking, if I'm correct, that we have a plan to develop a survey and a way to disseminate this throughout the community and then have that information gathered by someone, and we could all figure this out in a committee to where it goes back out to the community and the leaders of those parts of the community, and they can share that information. That's what
And
you,
maybe also, as that information is shared, we might have the good fortune to have people say, I'm not involved yet, but I want to be involved in X, Y, or Z.
okay. Laurel, are you getting
Oh,
any questions?
I think I'm capturing it. I'll read it back to you once we've
was that a separate project? It didn't sound like it piggybacked on the immigration.
That's what I was thinking of, a separate
Well,
project. It felt like a
it-
separate project.
It's
That's why I
broader
was-
than just immigration. But it is definitely relative to immigration.
Okay.
Now, are we talking immigration by like external or internally displaced or externally displaced people or?
It could be both. It would,
So these are
Depend
just new
on-
people to
yeah,
the city.
it would depend upon what kind of bandwidth people had to
Okay.
develop it.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I had one more project.
Go for it.
To me, this feels like it might be on the low to medium. The first one I mentioned, I think is medium-ish. This one would be a single speaker slash facilitator talking about the epidemic of loneliness. So an expert maybe from El Camino Health talking about what it means to have isolation and loneliness in community. And then having a roundtable discussion about people building connections, their own experiences, and looking at ways to overcome loneliness and isolation in our community.
Does any committee member have a question? Questions about proposals from committee member Sylvester?
Could you repeat that, Rose? I'm sorry. I was listening, but not listening is like stuff that. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Well, from what part?
The epidemic of
Like, we did
loneliness?
the whole thing
Well,
or?
more like the idea of you were envisioning like an action from us, like,
Okay, maybe I'll start from the top.
yeah.
So something like a single speaker focused, like maybe someone from El Camino Hospital, or a mental health institution, talking about the epidemic of loneliness and isolation in our society. Followed by a roundtable discussion, where people could dive into their own experiences and feelings about loneliness and isolation in community, and talk about, with the facilitators' help, talk about strategies for overcoming that.
So an event on loneliness?
Yes, it's an epidemic in the United States. I mean, the word doesn't have to be loneliness. It
Well,
is a sense of
it's
isolation
helping
in
me-
our
it's helping
community.
me, like,
Post-COVID in particular, there is a huge rise in people feeling isolated. Friend groups have disappeared, people have moved away. It's the number one thing people talk to me in my own part of the city. People's just like, I know everybody, but nobody cares. Nobody wants to talk, nobody wants to get together anymore.
something like a post-COVID check-in.
Not at all. I think we're post-COVID, but,
It's still around.
no, I know, but in terms of a
I mean,
pandemic.
the effect of it.
Yeah, I wouldn't reuse COVID in the marketing for it, for sure, but
Okay. Okay, I got it. Thanks.
Thank you, committee member. All right, and any other proposals? Committee member Lester.
Kind of on the same vein of listening session or presentation followed by a listening session. About housing affordability and community stability. I guess the idea is to partner with local service providers or local advocates to host a listening session centered on the lived experiences of residents impacted by the housing and affordability crisis. A lot of our, one of the first times I met Eric, you talked to me about the tale of two cities, and it seems like that divide in Mountain View continues to grow. And I think that directly affects community stability and belonging. When we have some residents that are thriving, while others who have lived here for years, who have been contributing to the community for years, are being displaced and pushed out. And so I would hope to use that input to inform the city and the HRC on better access to services, the importance of protecting community ties and advocating for one another in our neighborhoods, and housing justice and equity.
Thank you, committee member Lester. Any questions from fellow committee members? All right, seeing none. Do you have another proposal?
Yeah, this one is not as developed, but I was interested in doing something around childcare equity. I saw that the Palo Alto HRC hosted Jariah Hogue from Working Partnerships USA, who talked about the gap in childcare affordability and accessibility in Palo Alto and more broadly Santa Clara County. And I know that's definitely something that impacts a lot of our working parents here in Mountain View. So I don't really have like an idea of what exactly, maybe that's another listening session, but that was another topic that I was interested in exploring.
Do you think that would be a heavy lift? Or can you steal some of the ideas from Palo Alto?
Well, so I think what Palo Alto did is they actually just hosted the Jariah Hogue from Working Partnerships, who gave a presentation to the commission. I can look more into what exactly that entailed. And
Cause that
maybe-
would be an event. Like a
Um,
one-time event.
Yeah, I think that's the idea. And they hosted her at one of their meetings. It wasn't like an event that they put on. So I don't know if it's that's we hear from like First Five or the County Office of Ed or something, who gives a presentation to us as a committee. Or if that would be like an external event that we host with the public. I don't
that's
know.
interesting.
I think you just made me think of something. I like that idea, and I'm also thinking of want to get a feel for the group, having different entities, CBOs or what have you, giving the HRC, I don't know, updates of things that are going on, such as childcare or health or housing or what have you, and just kind of incorporating that into our meetings.
We used to do more of that.
Yeah,
That's a great idea. I really like that.
that would any other committee members?
So it wouldn't count as one, like, part of the two projects. It would, it would fold into.
Yeah, it
Like,
just
I
will.
wanted like the ongoing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to have a few more. I mean, not a ton, but a few.
Yeah,
I think it'd be great.
External, yeah.
okay,
Providers.
awesome. Perfect, thank you.
Especially if we could help staff identify people, it
Yeah,
lower the workload in terms of that.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
definitely. Thank you. Thank you so much, committee members, for your recommendations. Any questions for the committee members? Analyst James?
Give me one moment.
And Ash, our analyst is doing that, consider the third question, which is, does the committee have feedback on staff's analytical approach?
Okay. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make sure that I've captured your ideas faithfully. So what I have here is Know Your Rights workshop with kind of subcategories of tenants, seniors, workers, and immigrants, LGBTQ listening forum, pardon me. A CRT based on the immigrant experience in Mountain View, not political or specific to the present moment, or it could be a podcast or blog with a question of could that be tied to Human Rights Day, which according to Google is on December 10th. Correct me if I'm wrong, committee
That's
members.
December 10th.
Okay, thank you. An expert speaker on the epidemic of loneliness, perhaps from El Camino or a mental health provider, with a roundtable discussion and strategies to overcome the epidemic of loneliness. An idea to get perspectives related to how long people have been here in Mountain View and other activities they're involved in to get information to be a more welcoming community and have greater access to services, with some focus on experiences of folks who have emigrated here. The question whether to incorporate that into the current civic participation outreach project questions, and then question of would that look like a survey. Childcare equity is a topic, focusing on the gap in affordability or accessibility, potentially as a listening session, and potentially as an informational report from an outside organization as inspired by Palo Alto, with a general request for more informational updates from CBOs as part of the HRC's general business. And then finally, something focused on housing affordability and community stability as a listening session or forum centered on lived experience that would partner with service providers and provide information to the city or HRC on access to services, housing justice and equity, and the importance of advocacy. Does that reflect what you put forth individually and then what you heard about your fellow commissioners' projects? Thank you for bearing with me. I just want to make sure as we head into the analysis section that I understand what the potential projects are fully and can provide good feedback on those. So thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to question 3, does the committee have feedback on staff's analytical approach?
I do not.
Seeing none, we will move to item 7, committee staff. Oh,
Eric,
yes.
I have a question. As staff works on this, do you interact with CSA or Tom Myers?
No. This is entirely an internal analysis to look at what potential projects might be part of the HRC's work plan, which is an internal document. It's not partnering with other agencies at this point in time.
I wonder if we could get some feedback from CSA and maybe a worker center to add to our knowledge about this.
Right. I mean, thank you for the suggestion, committee member. I think we'll wait for our July 17th meeting to see what staff come up with, and then as a committee, we'll decide which are the 2 items, potentially up to 2 items that we would want to work with. And from there, if it would pertain to working with one of those CBOs, then we'll do so in the committees. Thank you. All right, moving to item 7, committee staff comments, questions, and committee reports. No discussion or action will be taken on any questions raised by the committee at this time. State law prohibits the committee from discussing or acting on substantive non-agenda items. Does anybody have anything to report? Committee member Lester.
Yeah, I'll just plug that the Rapid Response Network is still hosting trainings online I think it's a great thing to become trained as a rapid responder. You can give them your information once you've gotten the training in your zip code, and if there's any activity in your zip code, you'll get a text, and even if you can't make it to verify whether there's ICE activity in the community, it's just good to know what's going on and to stay informed. There's specifically in the last 3 days been a lot of targeted ICE activity in San Jose. And as we know, earlier this year, Mountain View and San Jose specifically were targeted. So it may be something that our community is hit with in the next couple of weeks specifically. So, and then Mountain View Pride is this Saturday. That's all I have.
Thank you, committee member Lester. For me, happy Pride. And then on June 19th, happy June 19th.
Juneteenth.
Man,
Juneteenth.
I'm practicing. No, Juneteenth. Happy Juneteenth. Quick updates. So I had the privilege of attending the Pride Center opening at Foothill City College. It's a beautiful space. If you ever get a chance, please go visit it. It's a wonderful opportunity to be able to share with community members you may know who are attending that institution. It's not only reflective of how far the LGBTQ plus community has gone, but it's also a form of resistance and putting a landmark there to know that there is a space for them to be safe, but also brave. And so that was very powerful. And just to piggyback what committee member Lester said, there has been an uptick in ICE activities. I do highly encourage committee members, if you have or know impacted community members, to let them know of the rapid response number. Just for the sake of just having it, would hate for them not to have it and worst case scenario, but that being said, please, I hope to see our fellow committee members at the June 7th Pride flag raising. I believe this is we've had other ones, but this is like our first like major event in our city. So it's a beautiful moment to experience in our city's history. Any other comments from the committee members before I turn it over to Principal Analyst Oral?
Wait, so the flag raising is the same as the event. So it starts in the morning, 11, it starts at 11, right?
Yes.
So what time are they doing the flag raising?
No, I'll announce it there, but I'm not sure.
So do we have to wear our little pins because I lost mine?
I'm sure they'll have items for us too.
So this is the one, remember when I asked you about asking about us being able to be identified when we're at these events?
Yeah.
This is something that I want to make sure that something bigger and bolder that we can be identified as so people can approach us.
Right.
So I'm gonna definitely say, approach people, let them know who you are, especially at this Pride event. Let them know that we are here for them as a part of a community, and we continually say, come join us if you want to be part of it, and encourage people in that community to join the commissions, whatever commissions they feel comfortable with. I think it's super important. But we also want to say, I also want to make sure that Pride is not only in this month.
Right.
So acknowledging people in the community for who they are and who they love, and accepting them is a
Yep.
task. And I am happy to say that a friend of mine who's from the LGBTQ community, who lives in Utah, was able to adopt a baby girl. So their little daughter Leslie was born about 3 weeks ago, and they brought her up here to meet us, and so she was welcome to Mountain View. And we told her she is loved here in Mountain View.
Oh, yeah.
So if we get them to move back, if they can afford it, they can come back.
Great.
Thank you for that. Any other comments from the committee? All right, seeing none.
Thank you, Chair. For staff announcements, I think I have 4 items to go over with you. First of all, it's already been mentioned that June 7th will be the Pride Festival celebration rather. And then that will be taking place on the Civic Center Plaza. It'll be beginning at 11 a.m. with the flag raising. So that will be the first event of the Pride celebration. And we'll go until 3 p.m. You've all mentioned various things about this festival. I don't feel the need to go into detail, except to tell you that the first 400 people to visit the info booth will get a free clacker fan with the Philly Pride flag on it. And staff will be wandering around passing out holographic stickers, so please make sure to attend. Secondly, the city clerk's office has sent out emails for ethics training from their usual online platform. If you haven't received it or haven't completed your ethics training, please let me know and I will circle back with them to close the gap there. The third thing is, as you may have received my email about this and you may already know, the Human Relations Commission is now the Human Relations Committee. This changes the advisory body from a commission, which is defined in the charter as requiring members to be part of the electorate, to a committee where folks who are not part of the electorate, including people who are non-citizens, can serve on the committee. You still have to be a Mountain View resident, but membership is now open. And other than that, the establishing resolution of the HRC as is occurring with all establishing resolutions of council advisory bodies now includes a requirement to adopt bylaws at a regular meeting. So that will be something that we do at the first regular meeting in the fall. And then my final announcement is related to that. There will be a special meeting of the HRC on July 17th to adopt or to, recommend to council a final work plan, and then also to receive the MVPD annual report. And hope to see you all in this room at 6:30 on that day. That concludes my announcements. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Laurel. So moving on to item 8, adjournment. Adjourn to a special meeting of the Human Relations Committee scheduled for July 17th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. in the Plaza Conference Room at Mountain View City Hall and virtually on Zoom. Thank you for attending. Adjourned. I need a gavel.
Dude, you did make out.
We all need